What's going on? It's Hop with HTX Tactical. The day has finally arrived. I'm super excited. This is very new for me. So, you know, I'm green when it comes to the precision world, shooting far out. Got my man Chase, one of the best long range distance shooters in the world. What have you got here, Chase?
All right, Hobby, we've got your personal 308 built by G2 Precision, and we are gonna see what this thing can do today, man. We've got their suppressor on. We've got a proof carbon fiber barrel. We've got a titanium action. And we've got your Wooks chassis that looks pretty gangster on here. TriggerTech Diamond.
Yep.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay down, we're gonna gather some pertinent data that we need at 100 yards, make sure the rifle's zeroed, hitting where we want it to. We're gonna plug some of that information off of our Garmin straight onto our Kestrel. We're gonna take a projectile out of the bullet library from Applied Ballistics, put that data in, and then we're gonna start getting data on this thing all the way out to over 1,000 yards. And then we're gonna switch up. We're gonna get you on my 375 enabler and get you on at 2 miles today.
That thing is a crazy rifle, man. Stay tuned, let's go.
All right, so what we're doing here is I am gonna bore sight the rifle to make sure that we don't have any wasted shots. I'm looking down the bore and finding a very exact point on a tree limb, and I get the center of the muzzle in line with the center of the chamber, and once those are perfectly in line and I've centered up my object I'm looking at downrange, I will then transfer my eye to the scope, and then I will move my scope until it intersects what I'm looking down my barrel. In this case, we should be within an inch, if not dead on. We're just shooting a different type of ammo today, so that's all we have to account for, and we'll put that stuff in the Kestrel and go from there. Our body alignment is extremely important here. And the more parallel we can keep our spine to the barrel, the better our recoil mitigation is going to be. So the more we set at an angle compared to the barrel, our barrel will actually use a right-handed shooter, correct? I'm left-handed shooter. So when I shoot as a left-handed shooter and I have too much angle in the rifle, it will actually end up pushing the reticle further to the right. The same thing goes true as a right-handed shooter. The more angle we have and the more shoulder we give the rifle, it will actually cause your reticle to move severely to the left. So if we can get behind the rifle to where we're still comfortable, first and foremost, because you can't force a position to where you can't get in line with it and comfortably shoot. You have to be comfortable, first of all, and relaxed. The more muscle tension we have in our body, typically the worse we shoot, because we're not as consistent. I can't hold the same amount of muscle tension all the time in every position. But if I can stay relaxed, off the gun, not influencing it as much, the human is typically why the rifle doesn't go where you want it to go. So what I do for you as a right-handed shooter, I would put the rifle right in line with your right hip, and then you are just going to fall in like this and get as parallel as you can get and still be comfortable. Now, if we're trying to get so parallel and we're, having to force our head in a strange spot, that's not going to work. We want to be our head upright as possible, okay? And then I'm gonna have a little bit of angle difference between my spine and my barrel, but I just want them to be as close to parallel as I can and still be comfortable. If we can do that, we don't wanna load our rifle really hard on our shoulder. We just want it to be neutral, touching our shoulder. That way, if we're shooting prone or if we're shooting off of a barricade, we're not inducing a variable pressure, which will actually give us a different muzzle velocity. The more shoulder we give our rifle, the faster our gun will shoot. You get off the rifle, it'll shoot a little bit slower. So you can see 15, 20 foot a second in muzzle velocity just off of a barricade or prone if you load the bipod. So I teach, don't load the bipod ever. That way you've got the same amount of friction coefficient between your bipod feet and the ground from any surface type. That way your gun will always repeat. Okay, so our left hand is gonna be in control of our rear bag. Typically I like to have where the rifle's pointing underneath the target. You should be able to hold the bag with your hand, nothing touching the rifle, and then I will let out the amount of fill necessary in the bag until I get my rifle pointing on target. And then I just use the remaining tension in my left hand to hold the rifle steady, I should be able to come off the rifle like this and get back on it and not lose my point of aim. So if I'm using my body to hold the rifle in position, that's going to induce a human variable that'll give us inconsistent performance downrange. But if I'm off the gun a little bit and I can kind of get in and out of the scope and it's staying there, then I'm going to barely touch my shoulder to the chassis. And granted, I'm doing this backwards for everybody. And then my right hand will lightly come in, get a very nice light grip, and then I want my trigger finger to be as 90 degrees as possible as I pull through. A lot of people with light triggers, they just barely touch the end of their finger to the corner of the trigger, and what will happen is a right-handed shooter will apply pressure from the 1 or 2 o'clock position, and they end up pushing the back of the rifle to the left, and the front of the rifle will go right when the energy is released through recoil. So if we come straight back through, no matter what our scenario is, we should have a good shot, and there's no energy causing the gun to go one way or another.
Question, so when I do got my finger on there, am I pulling just my finger or am I actually pulling my arm?
You know, so if your trigger's light enough, my whole hand moves as a unit, and but it's such a small amount that it's not influencing the gun at all. So again, I'll lay down on my gun, go through the whole step, and then get you on yours and get some rounds downrange. So as a left-handed shooter, I've got my hip right in line with my optic here. I'm gonna fall forward, my feet.
Jordan logo?
Toward what?
Jordan logo?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's what I need is a knockoff of the Jordan logo, but prone. So my heels are gonna be down, my toes are out, and I'm gonna be relaxed basically from the middle of my back down. I wanna pretend like I'm paralyzed. I don't wanna influence the gun, you know, and I've got kind of a different, because you'll actually load the gun differently. Again, same position every time. I can't iterate that enough. All right. Now, once I find the target, I'm gonna go full zoom and check my parallax. This is where the difference between a half MOA gun and a 1.5 MOA gun can come into play, is people don't know how to set their parallax up. All right. I don't care what the yardage says on the side of my focus knob. What I do is I go to full zoom at whatever distance I'm shooting. All right, I'm gonna find my point of aim, and then without touching my cheek to the gun, I'm gonna nod my head like I'm saying yes. Just barely moving my head up and down. And what I'm looking for to see if that reticle follows my eyeball. If it moves with my head movement, my gun is not in true parallax. So I'm gonna barely rotate my focus knob and keep nodding my head. And right there, I can nod my head and my reticle absolutely does not budge whatsoever. I'm gonna shoot the very bottom right one out of the way. And then follow through on the trigger pull. When the shot breaks, I wanna pin the trigger rearward until I see my bullet hole. All right, a lot of people will shoot and their finger flies forward and they lift their heads up. First of all, you're not gonna see anything with your naked eye, ever. And then also, if you're moving your hand off the trigger through the gun's dwell time, you're influencing the gun. Stay in the scope, pin the trigger rearward until you see your bullet hole. And at distance, you want to pin the trigger until you see bullet splash. Whether you hit the target or just off of it, when you follow through, you can have a much better probability of seeing where you missed and then make a correction to center. All right, here we go. 29.72. That's 29.75 is what we're shooting for. So we're within 3 feet a second, and that could not have hit more dead center from where I wanted it to hit. Javier, it's showtime. And when you have that wind call on the gun, I will say spotter's ready. And then once you get the wind call you're holding on the rifle, you've already dialed in our elevation, you will say shooter's ready. And then I'm gonna say send it. And it is imperative that you break that shot on your next natural breathing cycle. So one thing is a big misconception with long range shooting: you never hold your breath, ever. The first thing to lose oxygen is your eyeballs. They'll actually start moving, and you don't know it, but they will quickly start moving. So we want to never stop breathing. And as I say send it, on the bottom of your natural respiratory pause. So as you inhale and you exhale completely, that's when you want to break the shot. Lauren's actually on glass right now. I'm going to worry about fundamentals. She will call corrections.
Well, hot.
Send it when you're ready.
Fuck, I didn't hold.
No, you're good.
Trigger.
So there's going to be a point of impact shift.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
A little high.
Yeah, so it's a lighter bullet with a totally, it's made out of a different material completely. Okay? Same exact point of aim. Spotter's up.
Well, hot.
Send it when you're ready. Dead center. I'm not kidding. It literally does not get better than that. Grand slam.
Got you. Appreciate it.